Women have historically faced discrimination in many areas. The quest for equality in all areas, including gender, has been a long one. There are many reasons for this, many of which are discussed in the 6 videos that we watched. This is a very nuanced issue that requires a separate understanding of the specific context in every different society where this is a problem. Only by understanding the entire cultural background of the behavior can we attempt to eliminate gender inequality. This is an ethical issue because it requires each person to analyze and understand their behaviors and reactions in an honest way and then take steps to act in a more just way. This may not always be easy, especially with deep-rooted gender biases. The issue of gender misrepresentation was explained by Carol Gilligan based on events in the 1960s and 70s. When I think about this time period, I think about what I know about that time period, the stereotypical TV shows and movies. These all represented behaviors and relationships that were very different between men and women. Gilligan's observations of real life were very similar to the TV shows that I've seen. Women have always been faced with a lot of choices, and many of them are not easy to make. However, women are expected to make a lot more sacrifices than men. Ideally, in a relationship, both people should act in a way that does not cause hurt. Back then as well as today, women tend to consider their family's needs first. I think this is still true today, and these gender roles are firmly in place, even 40 years later. Although today women are more likely to say what they feel instead of keeping quiet like they did back then, when faced with an ethical decision, Gilligan states that women often do the best thing and not necessarily the right thing, because it is not always possible. I think this is true for men and women. We are not always able to do the exact right thing, but for the most part, we'll do the best that we can. Women have traditionally been the caretakers, and in that role they are expected to be selfless. When it comes to caring for others, theories are less relevant than the actual actions taken. These actions should be important to all of us, since we all have varying degrees of dependence on each other. The most important consideration is that the most vulnerable people get the care they need, but it's important to analyze each situation individually and take action from there. Unfortunately, this realm has been traditionally assigned to women. Some embrace this role, but others, such as Gilligan, are critical about not only the role of caregiver being assigned to women, but also how devalued the role of caregiver has become. The role of a caregiver is extremely important because the caregivers of today are shaping the children of the future. A woman who is not employed outside the home is often seen as less important than someone with a title and a job outside the home. However, mothers and people raising children are balancing so many different roles and at the same time instilling good morals and values in their children. The video states that caregiving is actually a human strength and should be expected from both men and women. Furthermore, caring is an ethically relevant and important issue for all genders and not just women. The responsibility of creating an ethically sound generation should not just be placed on half the people. The characteristics of a caregiver should be traits that we all should have. They include attentiveness to others' needs, a feeling of responsibility, competence, and responsiveness. This really isn't that much to ask. They are basic characteristics of what is considered a good person. We are all so busy that it may feel like a lot to ask. That is where the next video, Ethics for People on the Move, comes in. When faced with so many issues, it's hard for anyone to always do the completely right thing. However, our ethics are shaped by what we do every day, and this contributes to our character and who we really are. This brings us back to mindfulness, the mental marathon to consistently pay attention and to focus on all of your actions, good or bad. It is so hard to always be completely present like this, but if we do this, we are better able to make wise choices. This is not a new dilemma. It goes back thousands of years. Over time, it has evolved from a theology based on a thought process to a more scientific thought process, and now today to more of an individual choice. This is what they mean by saying ethics for people on the move. This ethical reasoning needs to be done at all times and in many different situations in order to connect both the head and the heart. I enjoyed the video We Should All Be Feminists. The fact that someone told her she was a feminist at age 14 shows that our true character is always present, whether we see it or not. I think a lot of what she says was specific to Nigerian culture. I don't think people in this country are as extreme in their treatment of women. However, it is still a prominent issue in this country as well. She was told that feminism is not an African way of thinking. However, it is a very American way of thinking. She gave a lot of examples, such as the waiter not acknowledging her and not being able to be a class monitor, where she was treated poorly just because of her gender. These are things that would largely not happen in our country today. I think the same bias is there, but it shows itself in more subtle ways, such as the way a woman might be treated when she goes to the mechanic to fix her car. Often, the mechanic will just assume that the woman doesn't know anything about cars, and either over-explain things to her, or try and do work that is not necessary. She said a lot that made sense. The reason why men traditionally ruled was because they are physically stronger, and that was important in a leader a long time ago. A leader nowadays needs to be more intelligent, confident, and innovative. These are not gender-specific traits, and an ethically aware public should acknowledge this. This change needs to come from how we raise our children. One solution might be to raise them without the traditional gender expectations, meaning we don't raise them genderless, however we also don't expect them to adhere to a certain role. When this idea is reinforced in society, equality of women will be embedded in our culture. We will no longer see a battlefield in terms of the role that women play, as talked about in the Global Ethics Forum. This change needs to happen by all of us. Men need to speak out on behalf of women, and we all need to feel the responsibility as a member of society to ensure the just treatment of all members.